A lot of people make that mistake.
And we're live. Guys, I have a special treat for you tonight, particularly for you bass guys, who love the history of bass tournament fishing. Live here on the Let's Talk Fishing Show, Ed Cowan. I get that right, Ed?
Yep, got it right, Jake.
Yes. At least I got one thing right today.
Hey.
Man, Ed, I don't even know where to start with a guy like you. When did you start fishing bass tournaments?
I started fishing in a bass club in 1976, and I was in a Watershed Bassmasters in Westchester, New York. There was a fellow in that club, Don Cajano. Nobody probably ever recognized the name, but if you look it up at Anglers and BASS, he went to the Classic twice, and so that club knew the latest and the greatest all the time because Donnie be running all over the country and bringing back. I remember I fished with him the first tournament we had after Dave Glebe won those 3 in a row flipping. So before it was even Bassmaster magazine.
Wow!
The whole club had a flipping stick.
Was Bassmaster magazine called something before it was called Bassmaster?
I started getting it in '72. I don't know.
Okay.
Before that, it was called.
So when did you fish your first? I don't even know how to phrase this. Professional, big time Bassmasters tournament.
Well, I was I fished club tournaments, fished a few opens. I was young. I tried to get in a club before they even let me get in. They didn't have this high school and stuff. I think I was 16 or 17 when I got my first bass club. I bought a bass boat when I was like 22 or so, and started fishing like some federation level tournaments. I fished an invitational in '83 on the Hudson River, and watched Roland Martin win.
Roland Martin, man,
he was fishing the same area as me, and I did fairly well the first 2 days, and the third day he disappeared. He didn't show up, and I didn't do any good, and he went someplace else and had another good day and won that tournament. And I dropped out the money the third day because it was the first 3-day tournament I fished. Made a first Federation state team like the year after that. Went up to Winnipesaukee, and that was some guys might have heard Danny Correa. He was a Federation angler, finished second at the Classic. That divisional is the one he qualified. The guys from the Federation fished basically from '76 till I'm still in a Federation club now, but I fished like this wide circuit and tried to qualify for the team until about 2006 or so when they split, and they had to split between the Federation. So the formats have changed, and way back. Well, initially they had just one big contest between all the state teams, and the top guy on the top team went to the Classics. So one Federation angler went to the Classic. Then they broke it up into divisions, and the top guy on the winning team in each of those divisionals went to the Classic. So that, the first one I went to, Danny Correa, went to the Classic off the Winnipesaukee tournament and came in second at that Classic. And I was at the divisional when and qualified. Then I think it was '89. They went to this national championship to get the Federation qualifiers. I made 7 of those national championships. I won it in '91. I won it in 2005. Brian Kerschel, when he won in '94. Yeah, when Brian Kerschel won in '94, I was at that tournament. I finished 6th, and I was the second high in our division. So basically, Brian Kerschel, had to beat me out of the Classic spot and then beat everybody else. But that was the second straight Classic he had gone in. He had made the Classic in '93 through the Federation as well, but he did it as he finished third in the '93 national championship and first in the '94 national championship. But I there's it's hard to know the history of the federation, and they don't have real good records where you can look it up. But it's a
Sure. So how many times have you made the Bassmaster Classic?
Twice.
Twice. Okay.
1991 and
We have a comment from Frankie Provolone, Frank Palafrone. He said, Ed the man Cowan.
Yeah. Frankie runs that Slay Nation. And
yes, he does.
He's a great guy. I basically found out about Slay Nation on it's a small boat tournament circuit where you can basically fish out of if it floats pretty much because they use a CPR scoring system the same as the kayak anglers use. And he was on Iconelli
yes.
podcast. That's how I learned about it. And during the COVID shutdown, Frank couldn't put on any of his tournaments, so he started picking various charities and putting on just online tournaments in 2020. And I fished a bunch of the Slay Nation ones.
So we have two more. We have two more comments. People are really commenting on this one. Jeanette Ward said, "Sadly, the podcast is glitching out on me." Jeanette, I'm sorry it's glitching out on you. There are some problems with electronics. Believe me, I'm very sorry. But she says, "Cool about Roland Martin." She said she doesn't remember that, and I'm your sister.
Yeah, no, bro. Roland, you know what? They have these debates about who the GOAT is as far as fishing, and I still think it's Roland. I mean, he won the most angler of the years. He's the only guy to win three in a row. And the thing that was really like you'd find out what happened in tournaments out of Bassmaster magazine. Now they got it live, but in the 70s and 80s, you had to wait for the magazine to come out. Then they had the TV show. And over the years, most guys that have won a number of tournaments almost always have something they're really better than everybody else doing. Like if I told you, Denny Brower won a tournament, he caught him flipping. You know it as soon as I mentioned his name, how he caught his fish. Roland won tournaments in more different ways than anybody. It seemed like every one of those tournaments he won by some other, different technique. And some, his wins are that's the only pro tournament that's ever been won. Some of these things he's done.
No, what I like about Roland Martin is he brought fishing to the masses.
Yeah.
He had that very, very popular primetime. I don't know if it was primetime, but it was primetime to me.
Yeah. I hear
you. And everybody knew who he was. He had a personality that was larger than life. Everybody knew it. He branded himself as a masterful marketer. But what a fantastic man. I'm sorry about that.
Oh yeah.
I have dogs here.
Yeah.
We have more. Let me see. A guy named Cajun Rob said Ed Cowan is a legend. I would agree. Great angler, builds a great jig and buzzbait. That's Cajun Rob.
I have some.
Another guy, let's go. What's up, Mr. J? Good evening, Mr. Ed Cowan. And Jimmy C. Hauser said live Wingo. Come listen to a good podcast.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So people are watching.
So, yeah, lots of people are watching.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about Cajun Rob said that you make a great jig and buzzbait.
Okay. Yeah, I actually have some stuff laid out here.
Go ahead and show it, man. I'd love to see it.
Well, I make. Let's see. Does that show? Yeah. I make a buzzbait that's basically designed to hold a frog with.
Look at that.
Yeah, number 2 or number 3 blade. This is number 3, so it would traditionally be like a half-ounce buzzbait, but actually the frog's heavy enough that the actual head inside there is where the heck did I? It's the same. Oh, let me grab. Oh, here we go. Buzz baits. The head and the collar that holds the head's the same size on the number 2 and the number 3 blade. That's so it's just basically a threaded rod that I made a mold. I make this is we were talking about punching before the show. This is this is a 1 ounce jig that some guy in Jersey used to market in like the 80s, and when my supply was running out, I to get a machine shop to make a mold to pour a jig is prohibitively expensive, if it's for personal use or whatever. And most of the stuff it makes for personal use. So I figured I had to figure out how to reproduce this jig. And actually, Iaconelli has me send these jigs. So they were, because he was, I think he won one of the first Federation tournaments they ever won on one of these jigs way back in the mid 90s. And there's this stuff called, I found out from like jewelry makers that pour stuff in pewter. There's like a high temperature silicone. It's called Moldmax 60, and you can like reproduce anything with it. That's
wow.
So now it's not like good for mass production because it gets too hot after about a dozen pours, but you can take any obsolete lure and reproduce it with that. You can even you can even pour, do a hand pour on rubber baits with it.
Wow. So man, we have a whole bunch of
and then
comments here that we have to catch up on, Ed.
Okay. We'll look at more lures later.
Yes, we will. I promise you. Let me see. Ed, tell them about you and a friend that had access to Senkos before they were even being marketed.
No, I don't know about that. I was Sluggos. I won
Sluggos. Okay.
It was Sluggo. When I won the 1991 national championship, Herb Reed, the owner of Lunker City, came in second in that tournament, and he was Herb Reed was a pretty good, he was probably successful before me on the local circuits. I mean, everybody knew Herb Reed was a hot shot, and he was like a graphic artist or something, and he was hand pouring these Sluggos and giving them to the guys that were good on the local Redman circuit. And so when I won the national championship, I caught some of my fish on a hand poured Sluggo, and that's when he launched that company after that. But he'd been handing them out for 3 or 4 years before that. That was a hot bait. Yeah.
Another person said, didn't you fish the Wrangler Amateur Championship around 2000 in Knoxville on Loudon Tellico Lake?
Yeah, I missed the classic by 2 ounces that year.
Oh,
I made it, but I didn't feel, actually I made it to the national championship in 91, 92, 94, 2000, 2002 maybe. There's one I wanted to forget. That's probably it. 2005, and then by winning 2005, I requalified. I automatically qualified for 2006. So I went to 7 of them. The 91, 92, they didn't give you an automatic berth for winning. I requalified. So
wow.
I was in Knoxville at 2000. I actually had I foul hooked a 3-pound fish off a bed the last day and threw it back, and I missed by 2 ounces.
Oh, also somebody said that's incredible. Another guy said, yeah, this dude's a legend, bro. Then another guy said, Ed, I have your grass jigs and buzz baits. They're definitely his favorites. That was Cajun Rob again who said that.
Okay. Yeah, I've sent some of these buzz baits to Mike, and let's hit this other buzz bait because this is the one that's really unique. Several companies make the ones for the frog, but this is an
Look at that.
Equivalent of an 1/8 ounce buzzbait. I use as a tube for a skirt.
I thought that was a tube.
Yeah, that's just a regular 3-inch, Bass Pro Shop tube. It's like undressed. That's what it looks like. And one advantage to this and the other one with the frog is they'll skip. And the other thing, really, with this bait, well, a couple more things with it. You can cast it with a bait casting rod. If you've ever thrown a skirted 1/8 ounce buzzbait, you can't. You got to throw it on a spinning rod. It kites. It's almost impossible to catch. This thing casts great. And the other thing with it is when you stop it, it sinks like this, it looks like a Senko when it's sinking. So if you see a fish wake it, you just stop it, and they eat it every time.
Wow.
One of the MLF pros, I've sent some too, but I don't know. He's got sponsors. I don't want to mention his name, but I can at least got these too.
We have another guy. He said, "What? A tube for a skirt?"
Yeah,
said, I'm in school right now.
Because it gives it enough weight to cast with.
I bet. Yeah, when you said skipping, I bet you can skip that thing 15 times.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can skip it. It doesn't skip as good as the frog one, but
no. But I mean, another guy said, "What's your favorite water to fish?"
Probably tidal rivers.
I catch these marsh bass down here.
Yeah.
They're just green, but a 14-inch fish is going to be this big around because they sit in there. First of all, the salt water stunts their growth, but it doesn't stunt them getting fat. So they eat those shrimp, which are, like eating a stick of butter, and they eat those all day long. So I pulled in fish, and then I pull up a 14-inch bass, and I'm like, this is it. That fish fought like a freaking bull.
I don't know why.
I love these.
I don't know why the southern tidal bass don't seem to get big because the Upper Bay in Maryland, the Hudson River, there's like big bass. I mean, you catch, 20-pound bag on either one of those bodies of water with some regularity. I don't know why they go to the speed and they don't catch them.
I love the marsh.
Yeah. New York's a pretty fantastic place to
fish. There's a lot of bass down here. They just down here the problem is every 4 years a big hurricane comes through and kills everything.
Oh yeah, that's probably why they're not big. They're not old. They don't live long enough.
No, they're not old. And salt water does stunt. It has been proven that a salt water stunts a bass's growth.
Yeah. Well, a lot of our tidal
they can tolerate a certain amount of salinity.
Yeah. A lot of our tidal waters have tide way up into the fresh water. It's not. And there's pretty good.
But also, they have juvenile crabs. They have shrimp. They have 16 different types of minnows that aren't available in freshwater. There's a lot of food for them in the tidal stuff.
Oh yeah. Yep. But they're cool.
That's one thing I do like about living down here is that the bass are big and are fat and mean.
Yep. Yeah. Well, one good thing in the north, the one thing up in this part of the country is there's not a lot of real big lakes around, that close to me or whatever. But there's just a million small lakes. I mean, you were up in the Midwest, I'm sure it was the same situation. There's like there's a lot of talking of these things about all the fishing pressure. You can go fishing and be the only one on, a little couple 100-acre lake around here pretty regularly. You don't.
Oh, yeah. A lot of the lakes where I'm from in northern Illinois, they have like 10 horsepower restrictions, max.
Yeah.
And some of the best fishing spots, which are, just kind of wetlands projects.
Yep.
You can't even have a gasoline-powered motor attached to your. And guys complain about that. I didn't complain. I just went out and bought a boat that I could just, put a 74-pound thrust I can make a wake with that big old trolling motor on that little skiff, you know.
Sure, sure. And you
And
don't have to deal with the wake boats and the jet skis.
yeah, didn't have jet skis. Yes, it did not have wake boats.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And nobody was on that lake but hardcore fishermen. So, and they didn't have any tournaments on it. And I'm not against tournaments, guys. I love tournaments, but it's kind of nice once in a while to go out on a Saturday and only have 16 boats on the 900 acre lake.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And just, trophy hunt.
Yep.
I don't care if I don't catch any 1 or 2 pound fish when I'm out on a lake like that. But
Yeah.
if you get a bite, I want it to be, 24 inches long.
Yeah. Well, I know from fishing the CPR that we have no 24, well, about 22, 22 and a half. That's about as big as you're going to get up around here.
Yeah.
And I actually, that CPR showed me, I thought like if you went out and caught like a 20-pound bag, it would be like 100 inches. No, that's about 92 inches, 93 inches. 100 inches is like 25 pounds, 26 pounds.
Wow.
I was actually surprised how hard it was to catch 20-inch fish.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you want them,
When you want them.
they're just not around.
Yeah, yeah. When you're trying to do it on the CPR thing, there's some lakes around here that 19s are pretty easy, but 20s, it's like not all the lakes in this area have 20s, 20-inch fish. It's funny, when I was a kid, it started out measuring fish. I got a fish on the wall here that I caught when I was 11 years old that's 22 inches long, and it was never
Wow.
weighed. So,
that's exactly right. I started fishing back in the 70s, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, but back in the 70s, when you caught a fish, you ate it.
yep.
And we ate some amazing, because back in the 70s, that was back in the days of the green box with the rants that made that cool noise.
Yeah, yeah.
And, Dad knew how to run that, like, Dad knew how to read it. And, man, Dad used to gob a worm on a hook, cast it out there, and with his old Mitchell. I'm sure you had a few of those.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Actually, I got some on the shelf up there.
Those things are worth a lot of money. After Dad passed, my mom threw out his fishing reels. I'm like, Mom, you have any idea how much those things were worth?
Yeah, well, your basic 300s aren't worth a whole lot because they made like 20 billion of them. But
yeah, my dad had 10 of them. Yeah,
yeah. I think I got at least 3 on the shelf there.
And he was still using those back in 2015 when the year he passed.
Yeah. Well, I have a 408, which is the little ultralight one, and I was using it for trout fishing up to last year. It's finally decided to put it on the shelf. Well, because the four, the ones that start with 4 are the higher speed. That's one big thing with the difference between tackle 40 years ago and new tackle is this. That stuff, most of it was pretty slow. So most of those Mitchells, unless you get the 4 series, the retrieve ratios, like, it drive you crazy because you're used to modern equipment. But the 408 was the high speed little reel. So
you mentioned the tube. Is that your favorite soft plastic to use?
Yeah, probably. I like to flip. I do a lot of flipping, and I flip probably 90% of the time with a jig, and the rest of the time with a tube. I hardly flip any. Like I know the creature baits, like a real popular, like a beaver. I basically never flip with a beaver. I use a beaver on a chatterbait, or actually, my version that I make, but it's only for personal use because it violates every patent. But you can make stuff for yourself, But yeah, no, tube was I remember when they first came out. too. Now they're like losing popularity.
It was like '95 when I was first introduced to that. When I first started following the professional walleye trail around,
Yeah.
and I fished with a guy named Dave Maurice
Okay.
from Venom Lures, and I fished with him on his home waters, Lake Erie, and he handed me a rod that had a tube on it, and I said, "What's this?" And he said, "Watch." And and we couldn't even make it out of the harbor because the waves were crashing over the break wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, are we going to be able to catch any fish today, Dave? And he said, "Watch and learn." Man, he cast it out. Got one. Pulled in about a 16-inch smallmouth from a harbor in Lake Erie. And he's like, what are you waiting for, man? There's a rock bar right there.
It's funny, guys. Like I was somebody's YouTube or something. They're talking about rough water like San Rayburn. It's like, yeah, they haven't been out of Erie or Ontario. you don't know what rough is.
Or Green Bay, yeah, those Great Lakes where you're in a washing machine because the water's going back and forth. And,
Oh yeah.
oh my goodness, am I going to make it back? I don't know, but I have a 4-pound smallmouth hooked right now.
Yeah. Yep. No, the Great Lakes are pretty cool.
They're high. I call them high stakes fishing because, man, that water will swallow you up.
Oh yeah. Oh, I don't even want to fish tournaments up there anymore. I'm too old.
And I had a 20-foot Triton with a 200 horse on it, and dual console, walk through windshield.
Yeah.
And still,
it's all about those.
I don't know if I can handle.
Yeah, those boats, the bass boats. It doesn't matter if it's 18, 20, 21. They're all too small for out on the lake.
Wow. Here's a guy who said even Presque Isle Bay. I think Presque Isle Bay might be. Please correct me if I'm wrong, sir. But I think Presque Isle Bay is in Lake Superior, and he said he's kayaked that before.
No, Presque Isle.
If I had a head off, I'd take.
That's Erie, Pennsylvania. That's on
Erie,
Lake,
Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a bay off of Lake Erie. My buddy Dustin Smith, they had the some kind of the FLW Federation Championship thing. He was going on to the national for that. He fished Presque Isle Bay last weekend.
Well, this guy said that he kayaked that.
Well, the bay itself is just you can kayak. It's a big marina. It's a big bay. It's 5,000 acres or something like that, and and it's swampy and it's got largemouth in it. Because my buddy made the national, largemouth fishing, which is unusual in the Great Lakes to do any good largemouth fishing, and because the winner of the tournament was smallmouth fishing, because those Great Lakes smallmouth just get too big.
Well, 10-pound smallmouth was caught a couple years ago on Lake Erie. That's just out of control.
Well, I think
out of control, man. That's what Gobies got in.
The story, the happening thing in as far as gobies and smallmouth is Cayuga Lake. They just broke the New York record like last year, and the gobies just recently got there. And Cayuga stays open year round because it's got a big power plant on it, and it's 400 feet deep or some stupid thing.
400 feet deep.
It's the second biggest of the Finger Lakes, Cayuga. Some guy's probably familiar with it. Hackney won elite tournament up there, and I think Van Dam won the other time there or something. Yeah.
That's on my bucket list to come and fish New York. There's just so many good smallmouth areas up there.
Yeah, and there's so much stuff in New York that nobody ever heard of because they basically have the big tournaments on the St. Lawrence River, Cayuga, Oneida, and Champlain, and everything else up there is just as good. It's some of it's better because nobody ever heard of it. And there's a bunch of lakes.
Well, that's probably all the Finger Lakes, huh? Isn't there like hundreds of them?
The
Well,
Finger Lakes,
just like Michigan and Wisconsin, you know.
yeah. There's only two of them that are
Michigan and
connected to the
Wisconsin. I
Erie
have friends
Canal
out.
system. The Erie Canal.
Okay.
No, there's three that are connected to the Erie Canal, and those are the ones that the gobies are getting in because the gobies work their way down the canal and up to Lake Champlain and stuff too. I think gobies are getting in there. They got in the Hudson River. I don't think they've had any effect on the Hudson yet. I don't know what effect they're going to have gobies in the tidal water. That's might be interesting. But Cayuga is really, and the largemouth are catching. I think the largemouth are mostly on like the Great Lakes and like the St. Lawrence River. I don't think the gobies have affected the largemouth much, but I think in Cayuga there's a lot more largemouth that live deep. I think they're eating them because it seems like all the tournaments they're having up there have like 8-pound lunkers all the time now. Got some. See you looking around there. Were you looking for more comments? Oh
Yeah. They're coming through, man.
yeah.
One guy said he's going to be at Placid and Champaign next year on his kayak.
Okay.
Another guy was talking about Presque Isle, so he says amazing smallmouth in Presque Isle during the spawn.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they come. You can catch some pretty good ones just outside the bay, I guess, on Presque Isle and stuff.
That's fantastic. And so, favorite smallmouth water?
Favorite smallmouth water?
Yes.
I don't really love smallmouth.
Oh, you don't? Okay. You're a largemouth guy. Okay.
I'm a largemouth guy. Yeah.
I guess I assume since you're from the north that man.
Yeah, but look at the stuff I'm making.
Yes, exactly.
That look like a smallmouth bait.
No, it does not. It does not look like a smallmouth bait, not even a little bit.
Yeah. Which actually, there's a lot of controversy and people up in arms and this and that about the about this forward-facing sonar.
Yes.
I'm pretty indifferent. I just find that everybody's getting out of my way. But I don't really like gobies that much because like when I was tournament fishing in like the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
You had to catch largemouth to win the St. Lawrence River or Lake Ontario. You had to catch largemouth. You couldn't catch a 15-pound bag of smallmouth in 1990 on Lake Ontario was a load. You were maxed out. You weren't going to call no more if you had 15 pounds. You had to go catch largemouth, and because you could catch 17 or 18 pounds of them. But now you can still catch 17 or 18 pounds, and 20 pounds doesn't get you in the money at the elites.
No.
No. So
the boats are so more powerful. Also with GPS, with mapping GPS, you can find a reef. It's already marked out for you, so you know exactly where to go to find the reefs.
Yeah.
And you talk about forward-facing sonar. I think mapping GPS was the biggest thing to happen to fishing because then like we discussed before the show, now you can get offshore.
Yeah, and you don't.
And even largemouth, it opened up an entirely new world for largemouth fishing.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? One thing. Well, the mapping is good on these things, but not all lakes have mapping. But I found more like good groups of fish in deep water with a flasher before anybody knew how to fish deep. Than because on a graph, if you run over fish at like 50 miles an hour on your liquid crystal graph, you're not going to know it.
Nope.
You run over a big school of fish at 50 miles an hour, a flasher, you'll catch it peripherally.
You'll see it. Yeah.
It lights up the whole thing. The 94, if you go to Bass University, Pete Glusek will tell you about, because I started telling a guy a story and he finished it for me because Glusek has told it in his Bass University things. He was on a state team with me. And we were up at Lake George and I was running up, the middle of Lake George, and it was real deep. It was deep enough that the depth finder didn't even read. And then it started coming around. It was 60 foot. So if you're 120 feet, it's twice around. So I'm running the lake, and I start getting a reading, and the reading comes up around. Well, we go that way, and it gets to 0, which is 60 feet at that point, because I knew it was about to hit something. I'm in the middle of Lake George, and then as soon as it passes 60 feet, the whole thing just goes red. It's like, what the heck was that? So I turned around, went back there, dropped the jigging spoon. That was pre-drop shot, and I caught 2 smallmouth on a Hopkins shorty. It's only got one treble hook on it. and that school of smallmouth was off that hump was like, we had 8 guys on our team. Every guy that got to the team the third day of the tournament after this thing got beat on caught a limit. It was like we caught 400 or 500 fish off this one spot, and we caught them
500 fish. And you're talking smallmouth?
Oh yeah, it was crazy how many smallmouth were on this hump. Lake George is like loaded.
Yeah,
and we caught them out as deep as 108 feet.
Jeez.
Because when you couldn't call, you'd keep just looking around to see if you could find bigger ones. Me and another boat from our state team were right next to each other in 108 feet of water, pulling smallmouth up as fast as we could pull. Drop a jigging spoon down, pulling it back up. And now your new mapping was showing the map there, but you would have had to slow down. I mean, you wouldn't have just accidentally with a flasher, and that's the best story. But I found other things with a flasher that I never would have found otherwise, because you could run at throttle and see something. You can't, the liquid crystal display doesn't tell you anything at throttle.
Well, you said that Hopkins jigging spoon. I've caught a lot of fish on those. I fished a lot for white bass and hybrid striped bass, and I've even caught lake trout on those.
Oh yeah. Oh, you catch it. That was this group of fish. We'd be catching these on that particular hump that was so loaded. Everybody stopped catching them because they're, and then you catch lake trout, because the lake trout would come in and chase the smallmouth away and stuff. But that was basically a jigging spoon was the way to fish deeper than 30 feet before the drop shot existed.
Yes,
basically that was. It's still effective, but it was like,
I saw
35 years ago was the only way to catch them.
Yes, I've seen some thrilling footage on the Bassmaster Elites of those guys catching fish in like Guntersville with jigging spoons.
Yeah, Roland won a pro tournament on jigging spoon. I don't know if anybody else ever did. I remember a Bassmaster article where he won someplace with a jigging spoon, because Roland won all his tournaments some different way than anybody else ever won a tournament. And there's all kinds of Roland rules on the. That's what into the use of jet drive was Roland.
Yep. Isn't he the one who has the fish camp there on Lake Okeechobee?
Yeah. I've never actually fished Okeechobee. That's my bucket list.
And he has a big old sign out there. Son, the fishing sure is good here at Roland's Fish Camp on Lake Okeechobee.
I bet. Yeah.
He just has a personality that's just huge. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Son.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's tough for Scott to be in his shadow.
Yeah.
That's why. I always wondered if he just stayed on FLW for all that time because of that. Because he had a pretty solid career.
He sure did.
Yeah,
he sure did, man. Jeez. Well, it's getting to be about 40 after the hour. Do you have any shout outs you'd like to do? Any thank yous to anybody or clubs, organizations?
Whatever support Mike Iaconelli's the Ike Foundation is a great organization. I always want to support the Ike Foundation. And so, the USO, I always volunteer. USO of New Jersey, Nick Albano is the president of that, and I always help him out. And by donating a trip every year for their auction. And five, say a shout out to all the guys from Five Alive Bassmasters. And that's I guess that's who I got to mention.
Okay, we have one final question here, and some guy said, "How can we get your lures, Mister?"
Oh, that's what I should mention. I have a link to I'm on Instagram Ed Cowan 5, and there's a link to I have some of the stuff on eBay listed under Ed Cowan 5, and Facebook Edward Cowan. It just messaged me, but, I sell a limited amount of the stuff. Cuts into my fishing time making the stuff. Yeah.
Okay, I put that in here so that people can find that.
Okay.
Also, you're a guy too, aren't you?
No, I did for a little while, but I don't do any guiding. I just
okay. Like you fish for Ed now, don't you?
Fish for Ed, yeah. Yep, fish for Ed. Yeah.
After guiding for 17 years, I can tell you it's so much. I fell in love with fishing again when I started fishing for myself.
Yeah, yeah.
It's I love teaching people say, "Oh, I love teaching the kids." I love teaching people how to fish. But I was working a full-time job. I was fishing tournaments. I was raising kids. I was writing articles, and I was guiding in fishing tournaments. It was just, man.
Yeah.
I do the podcast once a week. Once in a while, I'll write an article.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes I'll just wake up at 2:30 in the morning and drive down to the coast and catch some speckled trout. That's fun.
Oh yeah, I bet.
In fact, I think I'm going to do that tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds good. So, how far are you from the coast?
About 80 miles, but it takes almost 3 hours to get there, and just cast some of these things.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people don't catch fish on those, but you got to know how to work them. And,
yeah.
Just like tubes, man. You got to know how to work them. You can't just throw that out there and reel them back however you want to and catch fish.
Yeah.
Sometimes that works, but
sometimes.
But you got that,
Yeah.
I love it. But hey, man, Ed, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come and talk to my viewers here, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Shout out to the Slay Nation guys too.
Slay Nation, man. Frankie is top notch.
Yeah. He's who introduced us. So
yes, I want to tell everybody that Ed brought up a good point here. Frankie from Slay Nation, top notch guy. Check him out, Frankie Palafrone on Facebook. Join the Slay Nation. I'm sure he's got so many tournaments. I'm sure he's got some tournament close to you, no matter where you live.
Yeah.
The guy with a pistol. He's involved in absolutely everything, and he's the guy who designed this logo you see in back of us. He just designed that for me, and I'm like, well, how much do I owe you? No, Jay, just use. Yes, I will.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's a promoter. He's a great
Thank
guy.
you, Ed. I appreciate you so much for coming on here and sharing your life as a top-notch fisherman. Wow. Yeah. I'd like to have you back on again because I'm sure you didn't tell us 10% of what you've done.
Yeah. Or what I'm going to do
or what you're going to do. Yeah, you aren't done, are you?
No.
No, you're not done. Well, man, it's been fantastic having you on. Please stay on. Guys, I'm going to end the podcast now. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. Again, my name is Jay Angel with my newly made friend Ed. I don't know what to say, man. This is a great podcast. Thank you. Guys, it's Thursday tonight. Just go fishing this weekend. You don't even have to plan it. That's what I do. I'm going tomorrow. I just decided here when I was talking to Ed, he got me excited about fishing. I'm going. You only get to do this once.
Yeah.
with that, I'm going to end the podcast, and thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, guys, for watching.